Hey everybody, it's Dave Dugdale, learningdslrvideo.com. So today I'm testing out the Rode SmartLav Plus, not the other old one that everybody said was noisy. I'm finally getting around to testing this one out myself because I have an upcoming project I really wanted to try this on, because what you see right here is the Nebula 4000 Lite. I got a second unit in, and I'm going to talk more about that as I'm doing my audio test. This is not a review, just test. I'm going to run through a bunch of different examples. Just to let you know right off the bat, I turned all the effects off. There's no compression, no iOS processing. The only thing I have, and I just turned up the gain a little bit more than halfway. So again, this is only a test. So what do you have in front of me right now is the GH4 with the 12 to 35. I put the lens cap on and I put a couple blocks of wood on here. And what I've got, I don't know if you can see this in the frame, but there's a GoPro shooting a time lapse. And I was really interested in the battery life. So there's some strain being put on these two because it was perfectly balanced, but when I put the lens cap on, it went boom, like straight down, and these blocks of wood would take it. So the tilt and the roll motor are being used. The yaw is not being used right now. All right, this is the second audio test with the Rode SmartLav Plus. So what I've got now is I've kept the mic gain the same, so a little bit above halfway. So I was seeing some pretty good meter movement. Right now, I could see that, well, there isn't like any like minus 12 or anything on this meter. Let me turn it this way. It doesn't rotate. Anyway, well, I'll just keep talking here. But the only thing I did differently was I put on the iOS processing, which I've heard other people, Curtis Judd was telling me that to turn it off because it makes it sound pretty crappy. So we'll hear if it's pretty crappy. So why don't I just talk for a little bit while I've got this test running, is the Nebula 4000 Lite. This is my second unit, and the reason I wanted to get a second unit was to see if it had some of the issues that other people are having, because maybe there's some quality control issues. And I want to give a big shout out to Rich over at Camera Motion Research. I think they also call themselves CMR. I'll put a link to the blog post. But if you have doubts about film power, the people that make this Nebula 4000 Lite, and you probably should have doubts because, you know, like I said before, I mean, they still haven't even changed it yet, but the phone number on their website says 123456789 or something like that. It's a bogus phone number, so your confidence level kind of goes way down on that. So Rich is actually selling these for film power in the United States. So if you're looking for a reputable dealer, I've known Rich for a couple of years because I've met him at NAB. He's a really nice guy. He let me borrow this because I'm going to be using it on an upcoming shoot I've got. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to talk about the accessories this one comes with next. So let's go on to the next test. All right, this is test 3. What I've done now is I've kept the input level the same. I turned off the iOS processing, and I turned on the isotope, I think it was. I guess isotope builds a lot of great audio plugins and stuff like that. But they've got a plug-in, I guess that goes into here, that basically has a bunch of different presets like remove rumble and stuff like that. So what I did is I went with a mild compression. So I'm going to speak pretty loudly right now, and then I'm going to speak pretty quietly. But the only thing on in this room is my computer fan, or my computer with a bunch of fans in it. I don't know if you can hear it out, but we'll get into more of those tests later. But I wanted to talk about, the GoPro is still going. I wanted to talk about the what this comes with. So and I'll show this to you with some B-roll, but you've got a little wrench, and this wrench works really well getting into at least a couple of those on the side of my GH4. With A7S, it might be different, or whatever you're shooting with, but you only really need to tighten down 2 anyway, because what film power gives you for a wrench, it doesn't fit in there because where you have to situate it, it's just one of those things. So again, this is more or less just an audio test, and I'm just trying to find things to talk about while I test these different settings. This is not a review. I repeat, this is not a review. Do not get mad at me that expecting this is a review, because it's not. Okay, so this is test number 4. Mild compression off. And then there was another thing in a different part of the menu called effects. The only thing I turned on there was, and I left on the default settings for compression. It was just basically, I turned on dynamics and it had a whole bunch of compression settings. Some of the settings I probably would change, but I wanted to just start here with, I'm guessing what Rode recommends for their default compression settings. So I'm going to speak pretty loudly right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, and speak pretty quietly and see what happens. All right, so while I'm on this test, so what I want to do with this Nebula 4000 Lite is I'm in a situation where I want to have somebody on the mic, and this is the whole reason I've called this, the title of this post, SmartLav Plus the Nebula, is because if I use my wireless, if I put my G3 Sennheiser series onto the unit itself, it's gonna throw it out of balance. I could probably maybe attach it below and then run a cable up, but then the cable might be causing some issues when I turn and rotate. So I didn't want to go that route. So I started thinking about the SmartLav, which, you know, got my phone, just put on airplane mode, give it to my talent that I'm going to be following around with this, and it should work pretty well. All right, this is test number 5. Basically what I've done here is I've lowered the input gain from a little bit over halfway on that thing you can slide with your finger to 1/4. So I'm going to guess if I stop, and what I'm going to do is, so you can at least hear me, I'm going to match the levels of all of this in post. So if the noise floor goes up or down, then that's what I'm trying to figure out, is where I need to be setting this input level gain. And I can see just on the screen, I can barely even move in the meter, or the waveform is very tiny. Anyway, so what's up next? So I wanted to talk about real quickly on the film power side of things. I got this in yesterday. I balanced it perfectly, and then the settings it came out with weren't very good. And basically, it would list over to the side for about 2 minutes before it would slowly come back up. Well, I calibrated, you know, I pressed the button 4 times, 5 times to calibrate the 2 different, I think, sensors, the gyro and the whatever. Again, I'm not a 3-axis gimbal expert, but basically after I did that, then it would correct itself within 5 seconds of me turning on, which is great. Another issue I ran into is between the the roll motor, there's a cable there, and when you stretch it out, because the way it comes in the case, they push it in just to, I guess, to travels better. But when you pull it out, basically what happens is the cable might bunch up and hit against the frame sled, whatever this thing is called, this part right here. And when that happens, it's going to strain and not work very well. So I corrected that. Oh, on the battery part of things, this unit is different compared to the first unit I got. And if you go and open it up, you'll see that they added a detachable leads for the battery, so you could replace it, I guess, out in the field. Although the screws on these things are so tiny, when you do it out in the field, you might lose them. However, Jason Wingrove sent me a tweet, maybe I can link to it, but he came up with an idea of, and also Ken Asano, who I talked about before, also has these screws where you can screw it in, and it's a toolless design, so you could take the battery in and out in the field basically much quicker. All right, this is test number 6, and basically what I've done now is I've increased the gain to 3/4 of the way up on the slider. And so what I'll do, and I have nothing else on there, no compression, nothing, just all I did, this is more of just gain setting. So I'm going to be quiet for a sec. And I'm going to talk really loud, and I can see I'm peeking out here. 1, 2, 1. It's going into the red, so actually I'd probably never use this setting. So interesting. Okay. So I'll probably never go above half. That's a lesson I just learned. Anyway, so this is still rocking. The time lapse is still going. What I'll do is on my blog post, because this is probably going to go for maybe a couple hours. I have no idea before this thing dies. The thing should tilt down at the end when the motors give out. Also, this is kind of a cool topic. Lots of things to talk about while I'm doing this audio test. Is I've touched the motors. I can feel them, but they're not hot. And I've got this, thanks to Michael Andrew over at Michael the Maven, He did an awesome test on the NX1 recently, comparing it to, I think, the Canon 5D or 7D Mark II. And one of the tests he showed, which I'm going to get into this is the thermal imaging camera for the iPhone. And what I'm going to do is put it on my iPhone, and I'm going to look at these motors to see how hot they're getting, because they say they're not supposed to get above like 80 degrees something, 80 degrees Celsius. That sounds about right. Because right now my room is like 20 degrees Celsius. Fahrenheit-wise, it's like 70 degrees in here. So I'm going to try this out. And also, one of the things I want to try is, like he did, what I thought was really fascinating, is when you're recording 4K on the GH4, how hot does the sensor get, or the processor that's inside of it? And also test the A7S. All right, in this test, I have turned the input of the SmartLav all the way down. No compression settings, no other effects, nothing. So that's where we're at now. Still going strong. So what I'm going to talk about is my gear page. I started this site like 5 years ago, and I was looking at my gear page, and using WordPress, you can actually see how many times you've edited a post. Well, I've edited that page, I think it was 488 times over the last 5 years. So I've kept it up pretty well up to date. And which is not easy to do, because I'm always buying and sometimes selling equipment. So if you get a chance, definitely check out my gear page. I think it's one of the most complete out there. It lists pretty much everything I've got, except some lights. These lights that I'm using, I don't even own these. I've been borrowing from a friend for a few years, and I'm actually still looking for lights, as you guys know. I'm going to NEB, so I'm still going to look for more lights. But definitely check out my gear page if you get a chance. Because I've really spent a lot of time on it the last couple of days, updating everything. Because, you know, I moved over to Panasonic and Sony, and I've left all my Canon stuff behind. So I've updated all that, and I actually just purchased another Micro Four Thirds lens the other day. And in each one of those segments where I talk, it gives information about it. And there's a few items on there that I don't actually own at this point. But I would like to, and it's things that I've actually tested for like at least 30 days, and it's one of those things I'm just saving up for it, and I'll probably buy it, you know, at some point. What a good example of that would be the Shogun. I really, really liked it, especially all the tools that it had, but just $2,000 just seemed really expensive. All right, this is my 8th and final test. So what I've done here is I've turned the mic gain on the slider right in the middle, and everything else is off except for the isotope, and I wanted to try out the hiss reducer. So since I do have the gain turned up somewhat, I wanted to see how much hiss this is actually getting rid of. And what I'm going to do in post, like I said, is I'm going to match the levels of everything so my voice is very constant throughout, and you should be able to hear the noise floor go up and down. So I'm going to go ahead and be quiet for a second. So that's pretty much it. Again, thanks to the guys over at Camera Motion Research, Rich, for letting me borrow this for my next shoot. I did fine tune it. Actually, let me show you some footage of it. I fine tuned it this morning. I spent some time on it last night. And as you can see, it's getting really nice smooth motion. When I first got it, it was all over the place. And these devices, you really need to get in there and tweak, tweak, tweak. That's all I can say, because it depends too. I mean, if you're running with it, you should create a different profile that you can load in. If you're walking with it, there should be a different profile, because as I've, using more and more of these devices, I'm learning more about, how to get out maybe some of the walking motion, or when you're running, how that dampening wants to come into play and all that stuff. Another item that I'm going to be reviewing along with this GoPro Hero Black 4 edition is this one. I actually had another one in. This one is from, I'm going to forget already. I've already tried it and it's quite nice. It works really well. I'd almost say this works better than the Nebula because it's designed for the GoPro, just the GoPro. So this thing works fantastic. Right out of the box, you don't have to do any settings, although it looks like there's a little mini USB port. Again, I'm sorry I'm kind of babbling here, but it's just more of an audio test. A lot of different subjects here. I had another one in from iCan that did not work. One of the, I think it was the pan motor was really, really stiff. And I sent a video into iCan and they said, yeah, just send it back. So that's pretty much it. So I'll probably do a review on that with the GoPro Hero 4. This is still going. Like I said before, check out my blog post. And And definitely check out my gear page because I've worked really hard on it. But check out my blog post because I can't tell you how long this is going to last. Because a lot of people have asked, how long does the battery on the Nebula 4000 Lite last? And I will tell you, this is probably not the best example to do it, but I'm providing strain on the two motors. They're not getting hot. It's past room temperature. Anyway, maybe I'll fire this thing up and see how hot it actually is getting. So that's pretty much it. Maybe actually, let's take one block off of here so I'm not. Anyway, all right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.